Okay, hi. I'm here today with Ricardo Galiot, who is a lecturer of international business in HAMK. And we are here to discuss design thinking and how it relates to innovation. And we are very happy to share this conversation with the InnoBoost project and the online bootcamp. So, hi, Ricardo, how are you doing?
Hi. Hi, Mila. Thank you for having me. I hope, we can have a nice conversation and see if we can bring some nice stuff and food for thought.
Yeah, I'm sure we can, because you have, I think, long experience in using design thinking framework in many things. So what do you actually think that design thinking actually means? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's definitely a process, and to me it means many things. It means putting many different perspectives to work together. It means generating creative ideas, and it means identifying problems.
And how would you link that to innovation then? Like, how does it help
I
to
think
innovate?
Innovation, or the way I think design thinking brings or links to innovation, or brings, not necessarily link, it links in many different ways, but kind of brings something valuable to innovation. It's this human centeredness. It's this idea that, and I think I can relate that to the problem. It's like this idea of understanding, discovering and understanding what are the real challenges. Often what happens, and that happened to me, for example, in different contexts, we approach with a task. Someone, a boss, give us a task. And the task is about coming up with a new idea about X. I don't have to necessarily, but so what design thinking allows is to kind of go one step back and question, is that task really the one we're looking for? And then you, for example, I work in TV industry for a very long time. And one of the discussions we used to have revolved around audiences, and audiences were addressed as a certain demographic, or like all female would like this content. Not all females are the same. Why do we neglect men? Why do we? And even though you have insights, because it's data who's probably showing you something like that, the moment you sit and start talking to those audiences, then you identify that maybe the problem is not about the content. The problem is about whether I have time to watch it. So maybe the innovation comes from what Netflix did, making it available for everyone whenever you want to watch it. For example.
Okay, so it's a lot about communicating or creating connections with the people for whom you try to solve something,
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
Something like that,
Yes.
What about the kind of critical things? Like you mentioned that you have been using design thinking in many ways. What do you think are the critical elements of this approach? Like what in particular in design thinking can help to advance towards innovation, and what, on the other hand, can become an obstacle to that? Like what can hinder innovation if we use design thinking?
So when I work with teams and we try to put what we often refer as a journey or together, so this idea of, we were talking about identifying problems, so empathizing with those who are maybe suffering the struggle, or kind of pointing at the problems. I think one of the risks often comes from, we all humans we carry lots of biases. So a lot of the problems comes from, and that's something that it's often a challenge, I think, also working with the students, for example, and here in this room there are a couple of students as well, and they're helping us to do this video, and I'm sure they will note when they listen to me saying, hey, watch out for your assumptions, and that's a very difficult step. And I say students, but it happens in all professional settings as well. We come with so many biases. We come with with our realities. I come into this room because someone has told me to come and join this journey thing that they're telling me about, that I'm going to be 3 hours doing this workshop. Okay, fine, but actually I'm thinking about this other thing. And those get on the way of the process. So I think it comes down to how much a facilitator can work with what there is in the room. And I think that might prevent the real creative generation to flourish in the way we want. I think often design thinking has been criticized also from the perspective of those working on organizations, because it's often difficult to scale up. It's just kind of, you need this specific group. It's so situated.
True.
That often kind of remains often in just in the beginning, in this kind of first approach to understanding the audiences. But I do see that as a value, actually. Because we never have the time to do those things. We're often in our offices or classrooms, and we're so detached from the reality often because we don't have the time. Not that we don't want to go down to the street, but it's as often we are kind of detached because we don't have the time. So allowing time to just stop and put everyone on the table to discuss meaning, it's already a value in itself. But I think often it has been criticized because, okay, how can I replicate this? This idea of growth that you replicate, you make it. And I think design thinking, it's not necessarily built for that. It's built for doing small. I think if I think on the values, for example, another element more at the end of the journey is this materializing the ideas, like prototyping something that it's so cheap. It's so, like, often we play with drawings, and that's enough. And that's so you put it out there, you test, you learn again, and then you change. And I think one of the biggest values of design thinking, if we allow the time, is the iteration. This idea of kind of growing slowly. And I think it's very beneficial for innovation, especially for companies, because you don't have to put a lot of money. You just put money when you have done like 5 iterations made in cardboard. And it's enough. It's fine because we humans are like, kind of the whole thing, it's about observing whether what we're putting out there, being that a service or a product or a community engagement, it can be many things, works. And why doesn't it work? And I think probably going back to the biases that we were talking earlier, that's one of the problems we also face. It's like we have to make decisions. It has to be quick, cheap. And if we don't allow that time to observe and understand in different contexts, then we might end up, okay, it's working here, let's now produce, go to factory. Then you go to factory, and there are many cases, famous cases. I think even IDEO, which is one of the biggest studios doing or agencies working on this, they have faced that, they learned that very early, that you go and start producing products that actually they're not solving the problem, they're creating more issues. Lately I've been very engaged with critical perspectives to design, for example, and Tony Fry, which is kind of one figure, talks about the futuring and how much design has harmed like the environment and the societies, because we didn't think that these things will, okay, they're solving a specific thing, but we didn't have that time perspective, or that temporal perspective, that those things, those plastic-made spoons will be waiting for us, and then they will be brought by the sea back to our beaches and things like that. So so I think we are in a moment in which, if I can push back to innovation, the innovation may be looking at rethinking also the processes. And I think design thinking can help from a critical perspective to also stop and say, do we really need this, and what will happen to this stuff that we're producing? And I think that's something we don't often ask, but I think more people are voicing the need to questioning, okay, great prototype, amazing, it works, but what happens to this after
that's
5
a
years?
really important perspective, actually, to innovation as well, that whatever we create, do we actually always think about what we are creating, like what happens in the near future with that idea, even if it's great, what kind of impact does it have? That's a really important part, actually. And I don't know how often we stop to think about it. And I think it was interesting what you said about the scalability as well, because then if we think about kind of innovation, then there is often that idea of creating something scalable if we think about startups and we think about that kind of context. But it's really important to say aloud that, there are great ideas and great kind of new innovations that are not necessarily scalable. They might be good for that particular context, but that's it. And we shouldn't maybe even think of mass producing, And then I go back to that biases. That's interesting because then you mentioned human-centeredness. On the other side, it means that we take into consideration the people for whom we are creating something. But on the other side, us as humans, as designers, should also think about our humanness. What are those unconscious biases and things that we bring to the table when we facilitate the processes? So, yeah, it might be at some point we have, there is some criticism that design thinking has been offered as a quick solution to something that actually the world is complicated, so it doesn't work for everything, but of course in some cases it can be really great.
Many practitioners are talking about this, is in which ways are we able to bring all the voices that are needed?
Yes.
Because we tend to have the voices within the organization.
Yeah.
Maybe we bring the main stakeholders, meaning the ones that invest.
Yeah.
Or meaning the government. But in which ways are we bringing the communities? Are we bringing perspectives of someone who might end up, because a factory is going to be placed somewhere else, and how do they bring their perspectives into the table? It's challenging, but I think the more we do that, the better we can tackle these issues of the future coming back to us with stuff that maybe wasn't a good idea to design.
So bringing diversity to both the team that is working on the innovation with design thinking and to the people with whom you are creating something new. So it's all about diversity, bringing in different perspectives. Yeah.
To me, it doesn't make it easier, but it makes it more meaningful in the end, I think. Because the questions, and I think that's another beauty of design thinking, it's all about dialogue.
Yeah.
It's about, that's how I see it. Maybe it's a little bit poetic, but that's a little bit how I see it. There is a lot of dialogue in it. And there's a lot of negotiation as well, of meaning, of ideas. There's a lot of egos there operating, but that's fine. That's who we are. It's human-centered. That's so. But I think the more different perspectives we have there, even if the dialogues become more complex, they become more rich. Because I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was lecturing online. We were talking about futures. That's kind of temporalities and designing for futures, and there was one student who brought up that in her culture, they don't have future tense in the language.
Yeah, interesting.
And all of a sudden, that thinking about the future becomes totally different.
Yeah.
And how challenging, for example, our traditional Western perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm from Spain. This is like my thinking is very linear. So how that could also activate different ways of thinking about the design process, these kind of or these temporalities that are more circular. So it's interesting when even if it's a complicated issue, but when bringing this forward, I think it activates other ways to think creatively, and I like that.
Yeah, that's it. And they say in innovation research as well that it is a lot about who is around the table, different perspective, different fields, even bringing different fields together. But I think as well that even more so bringing different kinds of people together, because they with themselves will bring different perspectives and ideas, and that's where that richness actually comes that then can create something new. So that's really interesting. Do you have some practical examples of where you have seen that design thinking really worked and created some innovations?
Well, I'm thinking lately, in one of my courses, I did several things, but one of my favorite courses comes to positioning and branding.
Okay.
And I use design thinking methods there. Maybe not the traditional sprint that is 5 days, but I do bring some of the methodologies there and some of the tools. And last year, my students had a challenge, which kind of in a way resonated with them, and it was very situated. It had to do with the relationship between the university and the place where the campus where I work is located. And we have a group of students who are from everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
So it's very cool because you have all these perspectives.
Yeah.
Like in the playground, it's like I like the often the metaphors of games, and because I think there is something playful in design thinking that makes everything a lot more relaxed and not so like I don't know, square in terms of the numbers only. But and they had a challenge, which was to position, which is a difficult concept often in certain levels, to position the town where the university is placed as a unique space where people would like to come. Yeah. So kind of it was discussed as a kind of making it like as a destination in marketing terms, like a brand destination. Yeah. But the whole idea, the whole thinking here is, can we think innovatively? Yeah. The people leading this city, they have their regular work. They have to kind of, they thinking 1 year budget, 3 years budget. Yeah. Okay, so design thinking allow within the body of our students, allow to think differently outside of the regular routines. Yeah. And all of them came out with really different, like they came out, they had, we narrowed it to a specific event. Yeah. But there were 6 groups, 6 totally different events, totally different. One of them actually being something that hasn't been done. Okay. Yeah. Ever. So it was a concept they were putting together, and a lot of that was because many live here. Many of them understand their struggles. They went out there. They asked. They questioned. They asked officials, but they also asked the citizens, and they like. And for me, it was amazing how they were all of a sudden, from being in the classroom, I need this, to I have heard that this is needed. I have heard that this is not happening. Okay. Can we bring? And then they came up with some events are more influenced by things that we know, that we have seen somewhere else, but the innovation is changing, adapting it to this location. Some concepts were totally like a mix of 2 things that put together and really supporting the needs of the citizens here, and specifically the group that they were working to there's one that it was ended up, like we were talking about, the practicalities a little bit more expensive than feasibility, something I think innovators like to talk about a lot. But it was feasible. It was just more of a money thing, how much you want to invest on something like that. But they were talking about things that were really real experiences that could change the way in which the community would be together in a just to enjoy fun together, something. Wow, and it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, so you see so many ways of innovation happening. You said that some put some things together and that created something new. Something was totally new, and in some of them you saw some elements that were something new. And that's basically what innovation can happen in so many different ways. You mentioned that with the students, for example, you give them lots of tools and things. I have to ask you that. Do you have a favorite tool, or do you have a favorite kind of technique for creative thinking, or some kind of, well, you said you like games as well. Do you have some kind of a trick or something that helps
maybe you need to ask my
switch?
students. I tend to change often. I think the goal here is in which moment are we. And for me, it's a little bit about reading the room a bit and understanding. Okay, there seems to be a struggle here. Yeah. So I think you and I have discussed this a lot about how can we equip lectures, for example, and it's a kind of it's a toolkit. So
Yeah.
okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
Everybody's tired today. So what do I
Exactly.
need?
Pull out
I need
something.
them to start
Yeah.
moving around. Or
Yeah.
this year, I'm very proud of something. I actually read from a designer at the University in New York. I read
Yeah.
it. I think I read it in one of the. But I tried to implement it here.
Yeah.
And it was something very, very basic. But
Okay.
I am very proud of. I don't
Yeah.
know if they think the students probably were like, okay, fine. And I asked them to start writing and drawing.
Yeah.
So my students use international business. They're business
Yeah.
students. They're
Yeah.
not. I think they have this notion that we're not creative. Why are you asking me to
Yeah,
draw
yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the first step. Is breaking the notion, that kind of those stories that we tell to ourselves. Like,
Yes.
how do we
Very
go back?
important.
I often read about how do we
Yeah.
go back to that kind of
Yeah.
playful
Yeah.
playful moments of our childhood.
Mm.
And I think innovation has a lot to do with that. With playing
Yeah.
with concepts that exist and putting them together, or detracting something
Yeah.
from,
Exactly.
and then all of a sudden it becomes something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or or kind of recoloring something,
Yeah.
and then it becomes something
Yeah.
new as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
innovation
yeah.
can happen in many ways and in different moments. Innovation
Mm.
doesn't have to be only a final product that's
Yeah.
absolutely innovative, but it's maybe
Yeah.
fixing something
Exactly.
in the process
Yeah,
of making
yeah.
a service or a product.
Yeah, yeah.
And anyway,
Yeah.
so what I was telling you, it's like
Yeah.
I gave them a notebook, like
Yeah.
and I said, your reflections are going to be there, and you can draw, and
Yeah.
you can, and it might not relate directly to the journey of design thinking, but what
Yeah.
I noticed is that when we started doing the more playful stuff,
Yeah.
they were a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
from the start, they were doing
Yeah.
something that I was not expecting.
You are creating the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that, and I think that's also, I have noticed the same, that actually in order to start this design thinking, if you are not used to doing thinking in this way and creating things in this way, you have to first unblock that idea that I am not creative. No, I'm just doing this, I am not. I was told when I was in school that I can't draw, so I'm not creative. So this is actually, I think, the first step in design thinking, especially when we are using it with so many different people. And the first thing I think for our students in the course as well to think about is really that how to unblock that and trust that we all are creative, because every single day we are solving daily problems because of our creativity. So it is in all of us. We just have to get it into the use in this kind of processes. So
Totally, and I think, okay, we're talking the context of students.
Yeah.
With for them, normally they have a lecture, so there's a kind of certain hierarchy there,
Yeah.
whether we like it or not. But
Yeah.
but imagine in an organization
Yeah,
when you have
exactly.
a board of directors, and
Yeah.
you're trying to do something with them, and then the first thing you do, and I've done it, and you see the reactions.
Yeah.
Some of them they go into they play along, but some of them it's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So it takes a long time to understand that there's a lot of I don't know, taking off these jackets, you know, there's a lot of that exercise that has to be done, so we can then start being playful and break those kind of stories that we tell to ourselves. And I would say that for me, something that works, may be very natural to me, because I like to play with those things and experiment. And I think when I was preparing this interview, I got this, remember to talk about curiosity. But I think one tip I normally discuss with my colleagues is just don't be playful or break these patterns once. Try to do it regularly. You need to create the conditions. And creating the conditions require a lot of small things here and there. And to me, when we have several times, especially at HAMC, we tend to have these blended intensive programs where we meet with other universities, and they often follow the same pattern, which is almost like a design sprint kind of. And I think a lot more value comes from the chaos And it's often like I show this famous graph that's kind of messy at the beginning.
Squiggle.
And then, exactly. I never remember
Yes.
the name. And that's the first thing I put on my slide. I say, okay, you're gonna feel like this.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a week. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then half the way they say, okay, and I bring it back. You remember, this is fine.
Yeah.
We humans are messy, and this process are messy, but we need to trust.
Yeah.
Like, and I think this connection also with our creativity comes through that messiness.
Yeah.
I think, even though it's hard, I know it's hard, but.
Thank you. I think that we got lots of insights for our students about design thinking and innovation. And I think maybe wrapping up some things like what you have really talked about a lot is humanness, actually. So we are creating with humans, for humans, and ourselves as creators and creative thinkers, we are humans. And this influences the process in many ways. And that's what we have to consider as well when we are designing these processes, and also trying to encourage others to come along to innovate with us. So I think maybe that's one of the key points. But thank you very much, Ricardo, and I really appreciate your thoughts, and I'm sure so do the others as well. Thanks.
Thank you.